All right, folks, who is the best of the group of five programs? Back in the BCS days, Fresno State was the first one to really take on the big boys every year and win many of those games. But it was really Boise State that took control with all those 0-1 loss seasons, all those big bowl appearances, all those top 10 finishes, and the big splash against Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl. How about TCU? They jumped in there as well. They met Boise State in a big bowl game and won the Rose Bowl over Wisconsin. Then TCU joined the Big 12, and it was up to Boise State. And the Broncos have faltered a bit in recent years, but bounced back this season with a Fiesta Bowl run. They will play Arizona. But how about Central Florida? 2 years ago under Blake Bortles, they won 11 games, won a bowl game, and Blake Bortles then led the Fiesta Bowl win against number 6 Baylor, one of the big wins for a non-BCS or Power 5 team in recent years. 52 points in the Fiesta. Bortles off to the NFL draft along with Storm Johnson. Central Florida's turned to defense. They brought back 10 starters from 2013, and they've made another conference championship run, winning the American Athletic in dramatic fashion, finishing 9-3, 7-1 in the conference. Central Florida played just about a tough non-conference schedule as anybody in the country. BYU, Mizzou, Penn State. Let's take you back to the first game in Ireland. Pete DeNovo was tabbed as the freshman starter at quarterback by George O'Leary, but he was overwhelmed, not up to the task. Justin Holman came in, performed very well, brought a bigger kid with a stronger arm and with dual threat dynamic capabilities on the edge. Justin Holman threw 20 touchdowns with 13 picks. Actually, in that first appearance against Penn State, led what would have been the game-winning drive, but Christian Hackenberg came back and Penn State hit a buzzer-beating field goal. So Central Florida started 0-2 because they get drubbed by Missouri the next week, 38-10. Now they've rebounded and capped off the season. Justin Holman got it started in good fashion despite the loss in leading what would have been the game-winning drive. Then he finishes off the regular season by winning the conference championship on a Hail Mary pass, 51-yarder, to defeat East Carolina on the road. All right, Justin Holman and Central Florida take on North Carolina State in the St. Petersburg Bowl coming up on December 26th. All right, 2 straight conference championships for Central Florida. Justin Holman, as we mentioned, 20 touchdowns, 13 picks. He is a kid, though, that unfortunately the Central Florida offense needs to be better in the red zone. They finished 109th in scoring touchdowns in the red zone, and North Carolina State very good in defending in the red zone, led by Mike Rose at linebacker, 14 tackles for loss, and also Mr. Rodman Noel with 10 tackles for loss. Those are the 2 kids to look at for North Carolina State, Rose and Noel on that North Carolina State sideline. 7-5 this season. Really no big wins, though, for the Wolfpack. So credit Dave Doran for bringing them back from an 0-8 season in the ACC in 2013, just 3 wins, to 7-5, 3-5 in the ACC. But North Carolina State, void of any real big wins, their best against one bowl opponent. That was the finale in the rivalry game against North Carolina, 35-7. So an impressive finale for North Carolina State in that one. NC State loves to run the football, 37th in the country in rushing, and they finished off really strong against Wake, rushing for 362, and against UNC at 388. Behind Jacoby Brissett at quarterback, the former Florida quarterback really had a solid season, 60% passing, 22 touchdowns, just 5 picks, and he chipped in with 500 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns. North Carolina State's big back is Shadrach Thornton. He ran for 811 yards and 9 touchdowns, as again the Wolfpack, 37th in the country in rushing. They did have a really rough stretch in the mid part of the season. Lost 4 consecutive games against 4 really good teams. Florida State, they put up the fight there. They led by a couple touchdowns before losing by 15. They lost to Clemson, BC, and Louisville by a combined 84 points. So, again, the win's not impressive, but North Carolina State at least beat who they are supposed to beat in going 7-5. We mentioned Brissett. We mentioned Thornton, a host of receivers for North Carolina State that are pretty marginal against a Central Florida defense that was third in the nation in total defense, fifth against the run. So NC State loves to run it, 37th in the country. Central Florida, that's their strength, defending the run at 98 yards per game. That's fifth in college football, with Terrance Plummer leading the way, 92 total tackles to lead the Knights, and he had 12.5 tackles for loss, and they have one of the best cornerbacks, one of the top cornerbacks in the American Athletic Conference in Jacoby Glenn with 7 picks. He also had 11 pass breakups and 18 passes defensed. Looking at Central Florida on offense, besides Justin Holman providing the dual threat, you have Brashard Perriman with 42 receptions and 9 touchdowns, and also J.J. Wharton, we remember back to 2013 and the remarkable catch he made in an improbable comeback win. He had 36 catches this year for 3 touchdowns. So what I don't like about Central Florida in this game is they can't run the football. Their top 4 rushers have yards per carry averages of 3.7, 3.7, 3.8, and 1.6. That's Justin Holman, sacks included, so it's not that bad for Justin Holman. But if you're not averaging 4 yards per carry in college football running the ball, you can't run it. Central Florida is 105th in the country rushing the football against a stout rushing defense, relatively stout. But Central Florida gets enough playmaking ability from Justin Holman, and the defense shuts down Jacoby Brissett and company for North Carolina State. Central Florida wins another bowl game. They defeat NC State 23-20 in a matchup of the AAC and the ACC. Let's hear what you have to say about NC State and Central Florida right here on Mark Rogers TV.